The phone buzzed again. Amahle glanced at it. One missed call, and then another. She picked up her phone for a moment, staring at the screen. Her fingers hovered, but she slid it back onto the table. She believed nothing urgent could be happening. She let herself keep moving. Little did she know this call would soon be the one she'd regret the most. At 28, Amahle lived for her career. She was ambitious, independent, and constantly rushing from one meeting to another. Every morning, she left her apartment before sunrise. Every evening, she returned late, too exhausted to notice the messages piling up on her phone. Calls, texts, voicemails, they all blurred together. Her mother's messages sat unread, waiting patiently. "I'll call her later," Amahle muttered, brushing aside another notification. She always calls for small things. Her mother had always been caring, always calling, always checking in. But Amahle saw it as interference, unnecessary worry. The voicemails were warm but filled with concern. "Amahle, remember to eat today? Don't forget your appointment. Call me when you can." Amahle smiled faintly, then set her phone aside, returning to her work. That morning began like any other. The aroma of coffee, sunlight streaming through the window, the newspaper headlines scrolling by, another notification. Amahle picked up the phone and held it in her hand, hesitation visible in her eyes. A quiet sigh escaped her lips as she put it back down, choosing to focus on packing her bag for the office. Minutes stretched on as she walked through the busy streets. She felt a small twinge of unease, but shook it off, glancing at the familiar faces around her, the bustling traffic, and the city's noise. The calls she ignored became part of the background, like the hum of life around her. By midday, a growing weight of worry pressed at her chest. She remembered the warmth in her mother's voice, the concern she had brushed off. Amahle stopped for a moment to look at her phone again, scrolling through her missed messages. Her mother's last voicemail glowed on the screen, the words echoing, "Amahle, please call me back soon." She stared at it, a knot tightening in her stomach, but told herself it was likely nothing serious. Evening shadows stretched across her apartment as Amahle finally put her bag down. She picked up the phone, her fingers trembling slightly. Another missed call blinked on the screen. Her chest tightened as she imagined what might have happened in the hours she ignored the calls. She pressed the phone to her ear, but hesitated. She tried to whisper reassuring words to herself. It's probably nothing, though deep down she felt uneasy. Her eyes wandered around the apartment. The sunlight had faded into a dim glow, shadows stretching across the room. The phone vibrated again, buzzing insistently on the table. Amahle's hand hovered over it, unsure. Around her, the silence of the apartment felt heavier than the city's bustle. Every ignored call, every unheeded voicemail pressed on her like a warning she had ignored for too long. The warmth and safety of her mother's concern, once taken for granted, now felt distant and fragile. Amahle sank onto the couch, phone still in hand, realizing how quickly time could slip away, and how one small decision to answer or ignore a call could weigh heavily on her heart. Hours slipped by. Emil's unease had grown into a gnawing fear. She finally dialed her mother's number, hands trembling. Ring after ring echoed in her quiet apartment, each one stretching the seconds into an eternity. When the call went unanswered, her chest tightened, and she sank onto the couch, staring at the blinking screen. The voice she had taken for granted, the gentle, familiar tone of her mother, was absent. She gripped the edge of the table, her eyes wide with fear. Sweat pricked her forehead. She tried again, her fingers pressing the phone frantically. The phone rang, then went to voicemail. Sweat prickled her forehead, and her eyes blurred with tears she hadn't yet allowed herself to feel. Every voicemail she had ignored, every call dismissed, replayed in her mind like a chorus of warnings she hadn't listened to. Each moment of procrastination now felt like a personal failure. Desperate, Amahle ran down the street to her neighbor's apartment. "Please," she gasped. "Has anyone heard from my mother today?" The neighbor shook her head, sympathy in her eyes. Amahle's mind raced, remembering all the mornings, afternoons, and evenings she had pushed her mother's calls aside, believing she had more time. Every later now felt like a cruel betrayal. Finally, she reached the hospital, guided by a voice over the phone. A nurse explained in calm, measured tones that her mother had collapsed suddenly. Amahle froze, the words echoing in her ears. She was led to a room where her mother lay, pale but breathing, monitors beeping steadily. Relief and guilt collided inside her. She took her mother's hand, feeling the frailty of life like never before. Amahle's thoughts flooded with regret. She remembered the warmth in her mother's voice, the gentle reminders, and how she had dismissed them as trivial. She remembered the warmth in her mother's voice, the gentle reminders about meals and appointments, and how she had shrugged them off as trivial. She pressed her forehead to her mother's hand, silent tears tracing her cheeks. If only I had answered sooner. If only I had listened. The day faded into evening, but Amahle could not leave her mother's side. She sat, holding her hand, remembering every missed call, every ignored message. Memories of her mother's smile, her gentle voice, the way she had cared without complaint. All of it seemed like a fragile treasure she had almost lost. Now she realized that love and care demands attention, even when life feels busy or inconvenient. In the quiet hours of the hospital room, Amahle promised herself she would never let the small, everyday moments pass unnoticed again. She whispered to her mother, recounting memories, laughing softly and crying freely. Each word was a lesson etched into her heart. Time is fleeting, love is fragile, and neglect comes with consequences. The next few days were a blur of hospital visits, quiet conversations with doctors, and moments of reflection. Amahle thought about all the other relationships she had taken for granted. Friends, family, colleagues, everyone had moments that required presence, patience, and care. She realized that if she could learn this lesson now, perhaps it wasn't too late to change. Slowly, her mother began to recover. Amahle stayed by her side, reading books aloud, sharing stories, and making sure she ate properly. Each interaction was a small redemption, a way to honor the love she had almost ignored. She recorded her mother's laughter in her mind, holding it like a precious gem, determined never to let it fade into forgetfulness. Amahle's story quietly spread among her friends and neighbors. People listened and reflected, reminded that sometimes the smallest gestures, answering a call, returning a message, checking in, can carry enormous weight. She spoke openly about her guilt, the panic, and the deep sorrow of nearly losing the person who had loved her unconditionally. Her experience became a cautionary tale about attention, care, and presence. In the days and weeks that followed, Amahle's life changed. She returned to work, but now she carried her mother's calls, texts, and messages with priority. Every notification reminded her that love must be tended to, that people are fragile, and that no one is guaranteed another moment. The lessons of that day shaped her, guiding her decisions, relationships, and actions. Some calls seem ordinary until they're not answered today. Show care and never take time or love for granted. Time is a gift, and tomorrow is never promised. Amahle now lived differently. She embraced the small, fleeting moments with her mother, with family, and with friends. She shared her story to remind others that life is fragile, that attention is a form of love, and that the simple act of answering a call, returning a message, or being present can make all the difference.